we're speaking on Hollywood. You've been around, you've bodyguarded for a few of the elites, and you've seen some elite people.
For sure.
And they say, Hollywood's not too much far. Reality is not too much far from fiction. For sure. And you see something like Squid Games. Now you mentioned, I believe it was on either Michael's podcast or someone's. You mentioned about people doing big game hunting, like exotic animals and getting their thrills out of, an extinct species. Let's go hunt it.
Definitely.
And you see something like Squid Games to where, you watch it, it's fun, the red light, green light, but you see the bigger play that there's these rich men in Max that come on, and every year or so they bid on, the death of humans.
For sure.
Do you feel like either that could be one day going on soon, or even possibly in some remote island area that this might be going on now? Because, again, it's not far-fetched from reality.
Yeah, it's definitely going on now. Damn. What you have to understand is, this type of stuff is not going to take place on a remote island. It's going to take place on a private property somewhere around here. Private property is private property. And big game hunting is just like they say, weed is a gateway drug to this. You start drinking this, then you start experimenting with this. And if you ask anybody who was a hunter, bounty hunter, like the Navajo, Cherokee trackers, they all say it's nothing like hunting a human. It's nothing like hunting a human. Just like we just seen 5 black children rescued from being inside. They were adopted and held captive in a barn and used as workers for like the last 10 years. Just like we seen in Cleveland, Ohio, the 2 ladies were held restrained in a basement for 15 years.
Oh, yeah.
While we're sitting here right now, there's somebody in a shed being held against their will with no hope. If that person decides, you know what, my sex slave is getting too old. My buddies who are sexual deviants, they want to hunt somebody down on their property. Who do you think's gonna go there? These are things that's taking place right now for sure.
I gotta ask because, we seen the movie Taken.
Right.
And it's like you like a 2025 Liam Neeson or something.
Right.
When we see a movie like Taken where a young girl from America goes across overseas and literally gets taken, how true do these stories and how often do these stories actually play out that the average U.S. citizen doesn't hear about?
Right. So that's a fantastic question. It's 100% true. So I'm aware of locations where there's probably active auctions going on right now for females. The younger, the better at those auctions. If you're a virgin, you pitch more money. If you're a brunette, you're gonna get more money for whoever that is. That's definitely real. Human trafficking is a $100+ billion a year business just here in the United States. So imagine a place like Mauritania where legally they didn't abolish slavery until the late 80s. It's still going on right now. What I always pay close attention to is in the movie Taken, there was a spotter at the airport that spotted the young lady and her friend. One girl followed the protocols as best she could, her friend not so much. They entice people with the thought of being able to go to a party for free, ride in a nice car and experience these things, and you just never get heard from again. Because I can tell you an interesting story where a guy travels down to Mexico. He was under the premise that his daughter was going to audition for a TV show down there for child actors. He got there. There was about 50 other children there for the audition. They had all of the parents come out to the area where they could all eat and drink and stuff like that. And when I came back to the room where the children were, they were all gone.
When you see a situation where, everybody got social media, they'll see, a car pull up, a guy jump out, try to grab a kid and run to the car. They might thwart it, or they might, he might become successful. Was this always the play, or social media just brought it to our eyes to where people are so blatant where they'll just pull up right around the school and just grab a child and just take off? Is it always been like that?
So it has always been like that. It used to happen directly in hospitals where toddlers will get taken at that stage and then be sold. It's always been like that. The onset of social media, Ring cameras and surveillance systems being everywhere. Now you're able to see this type of stuff. I've been seeing reports and little recordings and audio visual about this type of stuff for a long time. And, every 40 seconds somebody's getting kidnapped.
Do you feel the ratio of kidnapping between young boys versus young girls, that girls are probably a higher target, or do you see a higher tick in boys?
There's definitely a higher tick in boys over the last 7 years. That I will say. There were 2 guys just sentenced to 100 years in prison because they were a homosexual couple, 2 gentlemen. They adopted 2 boys, and they pretty much were pimping those boys out to pedophile networks. And that's the way these networks are able to operate with impunity, because they stick together, they work together, they all know each other, they use signs and symbols. So you'll go to a place thinking you're going to the Chinese buffet and you just finna hang out and kick it. You will see a little logo on the table and you see 15 people at that table, they all pedophiles.